Hi, Kate.
John, yeah.
Yes, hi. All right. Yeah, I saw her in the corner. I was like, that looks like a Kate, I think.
You are right.
All right, so we're going to O'Hare.
I am.
All right, cell phone charger back there if you need one.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. Heading out to work or heading home?
I am heading home. I just dropped my son off for a 2-week program
Okay.
on the Northwestern campus. So.
Oh, I see. Where's home?
Denver.
Denver, okay. You know, I'm going to say the most common people going to Colorado, I pick up here in Evanston.
Huh.
And then they're going to Colorado. And it's usually like students or they're leaving class, but like if someone's flying to Colorado, it's from here. That's so interesting.
Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder if there are lots of Colorado folks that go to Northwestern or work at Northwestern.
Or something. Maybe they just advertise. They know. They're just like, here, we're going to hit them up over here in Colorado. We're going to get them to come over. We know what we're doing.
I mean, it's a pretty spot.
It is. Oh, it's beautiful out here. It's beautiful out here, yeah. Yeah, right by the lake, and especially now. Your son's here for the best 2 weeks of the year, that's for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because he doesn't want to be here for the winter. I know Colorado gets winters too, but there's something different out here too.
Yeah, Chicago area winters are different than ours.
Exactly. Yeah, when I lived in Hollywood, and I had roommates that were all, they called it the Colorado halfway house, because everybody there went to Denver University.
Okay.
And they all were from Colorado, Bayfield and all that, so they all got a place there and they all lived together. So this is our halfway home, our home away from home type of thing. But they explained that like with winters you get like a ton of snowfall. It's like super thick, and you need like snowmobiles, they said, to like go to the grocery store.
I think they were
Pulling my leg, great.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
They
Hey,
were exaggerating. I mean, I don't know exactly where they live, but I've never needed a snowmobile to get to the grocery store, and I grew up in Colorado. So.
Okay, fair enough. I'll just pull that one out of the brain. Dunzo. Love that. I actually had a friend who was looking to move to Colorado, but not like the bigger Boulder or Denver or anything like that. He was like, it was called Lamar. Yeah, Lamar.
Okay.
And it was this tiny little middle of nowhere, literally middle of nowhere town you drove to. And it's like southern Colorado. So
okay.
it was hot. It had all that spring to it.
I've heard of it. I couldn't place it on a map.
Yeah, you're not missing much. There's like 76 people. He's one of those people, like, he's like, I want to get away from people. I want to be quiet and all this. And that's why he liked it.
Okay.
But he ended up not going there. But he was going to buy a house there. And I was like, wow. I was like, there's nothing here. I'm the type where, like, if there's less than 1 million people around me, I start to have anxiety. Like, I'm very social.
Hubbub.
Yeah, I need all that, but not him. So you said you grew up in Colorado?
I did.
Kind of where you are now, or did you move around to find a different place, or?
So I grew up in the suburbs. We're in the city now.
Okay.
And I left for college and graduate school and a little bit of work. So I've spent some time not in Colorado.
I gotcha.
We came back and close enough to my parents that it's nice and we can see each other, but not right in touch.
Right, they got to think about it. They have to plan. They can't just come over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives like a nice little boundary, a little space.
Yeah, for both of us, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. That's cool. Yeah, no, Colorado's great. I really like it. It's beautiful. Obviously, I like the hills and everything, which we don't have any here. I grew up in California.
Okay.
So I'm just like, where's all the mountains and stuff? But I know Colorado has them, which is great.
Yeah, we don't have any of the waterfront, though, so...
And that's a big treat.
Where in California?
I grew up in wine country.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I moved to Los Angeles, Hollywood for my 20s, and then I came here. You said you studied and worked. What is your career path? What you studied as well?
Kind of a weird job. I'm a researcher is the simplest way to describe it.
Okay.
But I spent most of my career working with nonprofits doing data work, sort of helping them collect a variety of types and analyze a variety of types of data.
Yeah.
And now I'm in a corporate job, largely for reasons that I won't bore you with and I didn't totally control. But it's still research. It's just not sort of socially minded.
I see. So was it a lot of like, I actually talked to somebody who's a researcher that I picked up here in Evanston and drove to O'Hare, and she did research for nonprofits and for schools, and it was like market data, like where do people come from, who purchases? Is that the kind of research you do?
So I don't do any market research.
Okay.
Like the methods probably are similar. I do a lot of like interviews, surveys, focus groups. Yeah, I mean, in past jobs, I worked for a nonprofit that they would pair volunteers to read with students who were behind grade level.
Okay.
And we collected data on who those students were, what their reading levels were when they started in the program, how
Sure.
much they participated in the program, and then like how much they gained over the course of the program to try to demonstrate the impact. And then we collected all kinds of data on the volunteers themselves to sort of see like there are certain volunteers that are more or less effective. Does it matter whether the student and volunteer have characteristics in common, like all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. That's great to gather more info to see how best to get help for the kids that need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. And now it's more like, I just want to make sure this brand of toothpaste that Colgate is selling tastes good.
No, it's more like the management of companies. So
Okay.
I am in the group that focuses on the finance part of a company. So essentially we interview and write briefs for the CFO and the people who report to the CFO. It's mostly about like, how they manage the function. So some of it is about what finance does, but it's more about like how you make sure that you have the people and the skills and the systems in place to be effective.
Sure, like once it's been financed, what are you doing with that type of thing? Or how does that?
Sort of how like any big company, has to manage its inflow and outflow of cash. And so that's what the finance department is responsible for doing. And
Sure.
essentially we research things that are hard about that and try to help come up with like creative ways of dealing with those things.
That does sound really interesting.
It can be.
Yeah. What's the size of the company you work for?
My company is about 20K.
20K people?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a global company.
Global company. Yeah. Okay. So global. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we're sort of organized around different practices. So there are people who do research on human resources teams. There are people who do research on research and development teams and sales teams, and like
Sure.
that's kind of the framework. It's sort of you focus on a particular practice area.
That makes sense. Yeah. Once you get to a global company that size, you have to have that level of refinement involved in everything you do to kind of say, okay, well, here's what we do, and how do we do it, and are we doing it correctly? And they have, the people to kind of throw at that. So that's really interesting. I've worked for a couple of billion-dollar companies myself, so I know all the bureaucracy that goes into it, and like they want to make sure that they're spending money the right way, or could we do it better, or how can we make sure we're maximizing product or something? Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, I'm a techie, so I do the tech stuff, the nerd stuff for those people, which can be fun. It can be fun. But it's
What companies?
Gosh, what companies have I worked at? Billion-dollar companies. I worked for CIBC Bank, if you're familiar with them. Yeah, and then Baker McKinsey, which is like a large law firm.
Yep.
Worked for the state of Illinois, which is a billion-dollar revenue thing also.
All in like their IT?
Yeah, all
department?
IT stuff. Yeah, different IT stuff. I did a lot of work during the pandemic because it was all virtual, so I helped people kind of go virtual essentially. Where else? Yeah, a lot of like big tech companies like software companies, Malwarebytes, Centric Software, which is not a billion but close to.
Okay.
So yeah, that's usually around the range I work in. You get to see how those companies work and how the bosses, what type of browsing they do when they're not supposed to. It's a lot of fun working in tech. So do you like what you do? Is that kind of what you pictured? Did you go to school for something in that vein?
That's an interesting question. I did go to school for something in this vein. I do not love my current job, mostly because I really identify as somebody who wants to work for the nonprofit and sort of social sector, and the absence of that is really hard. So the skills that I use in my current job are definitely aligned to what I went to school for.
Sure.
It's the application that isn't quite a match for my values.
I understand completely. Yeah, I totally get it. Yeah, you want to be able to help people that are helping people, to contribute to people that are doing something of value versus something for profit.
Yep.
Totally get it. But nonprofit is a hard business to work for, that's for sure. I learned if they're a nonprofit, you're also a nonprofit. Because the pay's not that great.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. It's more than money. You get something more than money. You get the idea that you're helping, that you're contributing, that you're doing something. Sometimes it balances.
Yeah, I mean, and I've always found it to be more than enough.
Well, that's good. That's good. So do you think you're going to find yourself kind of working in that space again?
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, before this job, I was actually at Salesforce, speaking of billion-dollar tech companies.
Yeah.
But I was part of a team that did work focused on community-based organizations. So, like, my team donated licenses to nonprofit organizations that were using Salesforce to run their programs or fundraising or what have you. Mm-hmm. But our team, along with nearly 8,000 other people, were let go at the beginning of 23.
Okay.
So that's sort of how I found myself in need of a new job.
Sure.
And thankfully, I landed this new gig, and it was all smooth. It just wasn't by choice.
Sure. No, I totally get it. Yeah, you were able to land on your feet, but not in an ideal. Yeah, you got to scramble when that happens. Definitely been there for corporate layoffs. Definitely.
It's a thing. I mean,
it's a thing. It really is. It really is. And that, honestly, that was at Baker McKinsey. That's why I left. I didn't get laid off, but my friends did.
Uh-huh.
And then I was, I'd get paid, and I was like, whose mortgage is this? Like, whose pay is this that I'm putting into my bank account? Like, it just didn't sit with me.
Yep, the sort of survivor's guilt of it.
Yeah. Right, and then you think about it, and you're like, you didn't lose revenue. Your shareholders wanted to make sure they made a profit.
Yep.
That's all. It's not like you needed the money. It's not like you were starting. You could have kept everyone employed, but the revenue would have gone down 0.5%. So, and that's that's where I kind of lost the urge for it.
Yeah.
Yep. But that's where I also learned that it doesn't matter how bad of a job you do, your employer can't unpay you the money. So if you just do nothing for 3 months while you look for another job, it's fine. It's justified.
Yeah, it was interesting actually when Salesforce laid all those people, myself included, off.
Yeah.
They actually had us. I mean, they informed us and turned off all of our equipment and all of our access, but then continued to pay us for 3 months.
Okay.
To do nothing.
Right, but this was like the layoff package.
Yeah, I mean, it was somehow. Yeah, I honestly don't understand why they chose to do it that way.
Right.
I assume that it was. Yeah, I assume it was a combination of trying to protect themselves, but also offer something that was reasonably generous to people and whatever. But it was sort of bizarre to be literally paid for not working.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I built a career on that, but I get what you mean. I totally get it. Yeah, because to me it would make sense. Why don't I keep coming in and doing something? But they, like you said, protect themselves, protect people from being malicious when they know they're getting laid off.
Right. I assume that is exactly what it was the risk of having people be able to access systems and whatnot, knowing what was coming at the end, was too great.
Absolutely. It's so interesting how they think, how they manage, what they throw, because that's millions of dollars that they just. Here we go.
Yep.
Here you go. But that somehow saves us money. Here we go.
Yeah, I think probably in the long term it allowed them to free up those roles to redeploy them to other things. And, I think they and lots of other companies have done that with AI, right? Like they lay off, 800 to 1,000, a couple percent of their employees, and that frees up headcount so they can redeploy that to AI and hire people who have different skills than they. But and you can't totally begrudge them that. At the same time, it's
right. At the end of the day, you're right. It's people. They have to make a number go up. That's their job. They've got to do it. So that's what they have to do. think about the human aspect of it, of who's involved, who loses a job, who spends the day doing that. That's not a worry. So I get it. It's semi-justifiable.
Yeah.
I guess I can understand it. I heard everything. I understand the words you're saying. They're in there and I get them. Doesn't mean I'm all right with them, but I get it.
Yeah, I think that's right. There's a logical chain that I can follow.
Yes.
I just don't agree with some of the underlying assumptions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of beef with, Salesforce talked a lot about sort of the company being a family. There was all of this kind of expectation or this sort of performative, we're loyal to one another and all of that. And you don't lay off your family,
I never believe it.
Right. I think that's the bottom line, is that was never true, and they shouldn't have been sort of... that's not a thing that companies need to be, right?
Sure.
I don't need my company to be my best friend. I don't need them to be my family, but let's not pretend that you are and then do these lovely things.
It's like, no. And
you don't
honestly,
get to be both.
Because honestly, that's a manipulation. They want you to feel like you're doing this for family, but they're not going to treat you like it. But
that's exactly right.
Yeah, but fortunately, I had a marriage and family therapist that told me a great fact, which is that people treat their family worse than they do strangers. So when someone says, we're a family here, that's a big old red flag. It's a big old red flag.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
But it's true, because people are put on a face for strangers, but behind closed doors with their own family, they're not like that.
I think that is true. There is some truth to that.
Yeah. But no, I think if we treat it like a business on our end, and this is why, again, that my approach to employers was exactly that. I was like, I'm going to give you exactly what we've agreed to, what you paid me for, and I'm doing no extra.
Yep.
Barely doing what you asked me to, frankly. Barely, if that. Yeah, there was, and that's with that big company. When I was there, I truly said, I'm not doing anything unless someone explicitly comes up and says, John, can you do this thing? Because they have a ticket queue, all this stuff. I didn't bother, didn't touch it. So unless somebody asked me to do something, I didn't do anything. And again, this was pandemic. I was working from home, so it was very easy to get away with it. But I was telling, I'm a comedian, and that's one of my jokes. So I said, I think I retired in 2019. I just didn't tell my employers.
I don't think you were alone in that. Certainly not during the pandemic.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I'm so glad. Yeah, I know, and there were a lot of people that were working from home, double jobbing, myself included. And so I actually had, in the middle of the pandemic, I had 4 work from home jobs at one time, full-time work from home jobs.
Whoa.
And everybody says, they go, how do you do 4 work from home jobs? That's 8 hours a day at each job, and in 4 jobs, it's 32 hours. There's no way you can do that. And I said, it's simple math. 4 times 0 is 0. Just do nothing at all 4. So if you're hiring at all, let me know.
And you were able to do that for a long time?
I think I honestly could only tolerate the anxiety from that for about 4 months. The worry about getting caught. I did it for, honestly, I think that the 4 jobs was a month, and then 3 jobs was like 2 months. And then after that, I was like, no.
And it's a lot of exposure if somebody...
Yeah, it was a lot. I did buy a house, so that was great. So that was it. I was like, cool. Got the house, I'm done. And then, after that, I definitely didn't want to do that. But yeah, because it is a lot. It's just the worry. And so many meetings. There's so many meetings you have to be in. It was a lot.
Oh, that's interesting. You would obviously work in that form. You would just, things were not happening outside of the meetings.
Exactly. Well, it's one of those where, actually with IT, and this is the worst part of it, is you go, you sit in a meeting, you say nothing for the whole thing because there's nothing to say, and then after that you have to go and actually do the work you're supposed to do. And it's like, well, I just spent half my day in a meeting, in several meetings about the things you want me to do 6 weeks from now, but now I can't, and it was just a cycle. There was always that. So it's like you have 4 hours to do 8 hours of work, and it ends up being very difficult. And because you can't work during the meetings, you have to pay attention in case they say your name, right? And that's the thing I noticed. The bigger the company, the more meetings, the more time I spent doing less.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really was the biggest surprise. And then even also like I'm my title would be senior systems engineer, so I'm like 21 years experience, super high level, and I work less now than I ever did. Like there's just less of a requirement. When I was like level 1, I'd be working 8 to 10 hours a day nonstop on my feet, running around, fixing cables, doing computer stuff, doing whatever. But like the higher level your tier goes, you end up having to do less and less actual stuff, which is it didn't make sense to me.
I assume you're supervising other people doing that stuff, or
No, not anymore.
okay.
It's really when you're senior admin, you only have to do stuff if stuff breaks,
okay.
and if you performance tune the system, it'll pretty much run itself. They're kind of by design to not.
So you're sort of an emergency backup if something.
It's
A
monitored.
really expensive emergency backup.
And not even that, but like monitoring. So like if you say like all the computer systems you use, like Salesforce, right? Salesforce has databases and all these things. I have to make sure that the databases are working, that they're backed up, and you get little notifications like, okay, the source system is up, it's working. So we'll call it a green check mark. And then a backup was completed. You do backup every hour. Well, this hour backup did fine. Okay, all these other computers, are they working? Yeah. Is the network working? You're just making sure all the lights are green,
Got it.
essentially. But if they're all green, you don't have anything to do.
But if they're not,
Then you got to do
it's
something.
hair on fire.
Yeah, and that's where it was. I always said it's like about 3 times a year, I'll work for like 18 hours nonstop, and then wake up and then do the same thing, and then that's my weekend and I'm done. And after that, it's very casual.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of the trade-off, But yeah.
I guess I can. In a couple jobs ago, I had briefly had to oversee our Salesforce instance, and it went down, and it was like constant attention. And
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a job that I and my team were doing like as a side gig. So I mean, when it was down, we had to pay 100% attention to it for 36 hours, whatever, until it was resolved.
Right.
But then, if that had been our sole job, once it was back online, we would have gone back to not having that much to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's and I see this is where my laziness kind of is the job. It's like my whole job is to make it to where I don't have anything to do. If I'm not busy, I'm doing it right.
Yep.
So it's kind of nice that way, but it's one of those where it ends up you just spend a lot of time doing nothing, I guess. Which is great for me because I like to mess around on the internet all day. So it's great. Yeah. Honestly, I do this because this is how I talk to people. This is how I socialize, test out jokes when I'm working on comedy stuff. This is how I do it. Because if not, I'm just at home totally alone. So do you have other kids and family in Colorado too?
I do. My husband and my older son are back in Denver. Yeah.
That's fun. I have one daughter, she's 11, but we split time between her mom's and mine, so it's
Okay.
like, half and half. It's not as much.
Are they local?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fortunately. Just outside of the city, and then I live in the city itself.
Got it.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
So is that 7th grade? What grade is she?
5th grade. She's
Fifth
going
grade?
into 5th grade.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like once they pass those milestones, I lose track of how old you are when you do things.
Right. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting watching them grow. How old are your children then?
So the one I just dropped off is 14.
Okay.
And my older is 15. Will be 16 later this week.
Oh, okay. Oh, gosh. Yeah, the teenage years for boys, you've got no food in the house, I'm assuming.
Yeah. So we are small people, and we've not hit the tapeworm phase of their lives. My husband did, and is eagerly looking forward to it. But no, they were super picky eaters for most of their lives, and now their version of progressing into teenage eating is that they eat like normal humans. So we'll see if they get to a point where they eat nonstop. But.
Right. That'll be interesting. Yeah, I know with my daughter, the teenage years are on their way, and I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, teenage girls are something.
That's why she's been so chill. She's really, honestly, no tantrums as a kid. Never freaked out. Never freaked out at a store. Was just super easy. And so I know I'm just in for it. I know the type of teenager I was. I know the type of teenager my sister was. I'm in for it. Like, I gotta have lawyers on standby soon. Yeah. But yeah, so they're at the teenage. They're going to be close to 18. They're going to be off to college soon, you think? Or
yeah, that is the plan right now. Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean the older will be a junior this year, and the younger will be a sophomore. So yeah, feels like it is around the corner.
Yeah. And what's the program at Loyola? Is it kind of something they're interested in?
So that's Northwestern.
Oh, that's right. Northwestern.
So it's he's taking a seminar. The way it's structured, they have it's a roughly 3-hour seminar block in the morning, and then basically free time in the afternoon. He's taking a seminar on bioethical decision making. So essentially, like a philosophy. I mean, it feels very philosophical applied to medical decisions.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like it's in the medical field. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's medical field adjacent. Like, I would think about it as the kind of moral and ethical questions that people in the medical field have to ask themselves as they do their work. So,
Sure.
I think one of the cases that it looks like they'll be studying is around like religious beliefs that lead parents to decline medical care for their kids.
Sure, like the Christian Science, yeah.
Yeah, sort of like what are the implications, like, and how do you navigate that as a medical practitioner, and like how do you reconcile that with the Hippocratic Oath? And, so, yeah, we'll see.
That's so interesting. So does he want to work in the medical field?
No.
No? Okay, this is just something he's interested in going to today.
Yeah, I mean, he's my kid who doesn't really say yes to much.
Okay.
But we told him that he could not sit around and pick his nose all summer, so
Okay.
we gave him a menu of options, and this is the one that he chose. So we
Okay.
said, great.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's a curious kid. The philosophical stuff is interesting. Yeah, I honestly don't know exactly why this one resonated for him, but
Yeah.
it did, so we'll take it.
Okay. Yeah. See, that's very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we served him out. I mean, he was on a robotics team at high school this year.
Okay.
Math is probably his strongest subject. Like, we served him up a whole bunch of options that were more in the STEM arena, and he didn't choose those. So
Yeah. Okay. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Science, robotics. Obviously, that's just all up my alley. I love that. So that's really cool. But then, I love the biology and technology and all that. That's one of the fascinating things about what I do here with I'm driving. I pick up students all the time, and they're all like, neurobiology students, and like, they study, human mechanics and kinesiologists and stuff like that. So I get to like pick their brains about how all that stuff works, which is a lot of fun. So that's curious, and that's such a great question, is that biology and ethics, because what do you do, right? If a child is being harmed by their parents' religious beliefs, and that's not the child's choice, that's such an interesting question.
Yep.
I'm very curious what they're gonna say and what they come about from it. That's
I'm particularly curious about the professor's approach to manage, because they're going to tiptoe or maybe walk straight into some pretty sticky conversations and topics. And to have the sort of fortitude to be willing to facilitate those kind of conversations with 20 high schoolers, I think is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Exactly. And I'm really curious. That sounds very interesting. Just to see what they come up with, what they think of it, and how they approach something like that. Because you're right, they are teenagers, so you have to tread semi-lightly, potentially, depending on who the parents are or how that might go.
Yeah, I mean, how do you sort of create space for the students to have their own points of view, but also make sure that they respect and leave space for differing views, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and they're sort of at an age where they're no longer sort of parroting their parents' beliefs, but they're still aware of their parents' views, and sort of, there's just a lot to unpack.
Right. Yeah.
And then, I mean, yeah, aside from the academic stuff, like he'll be on the campus and just sort of, I mean, they kept describing it as like a trial practice run at college, right? I mean, they're only there for a couple of weeks. It's not like, but I mean, they're staying in the dorms, they're eating in the dining halls,
Yeah.
they, like have to get around campus to classes, and
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds really cool.
I
It sounds
agree.
really cool.
yeah.
Yeah, practice in college. My daughter's older sister, she did the same thing, and that was at Loyola, and it was for the medical program. But that's what it was. It was like lectures through the day, and then you're essentially treated like you're a student for the summer for like a week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She like it?
She did. Yeah, she learned a lot, so she really liked it. It's definitely something she was interested in. So, yeah, and I think it's a great experience. It's like a sleepaway camp without like all the bug bites.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
totally what it is.
Yeah. Though actually, I'm not gonna lie. He's by the lake. He might get a lot of bug bites.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's in the summer.
That's fair.
Yeah, I live by the lake also, but like down closer to the city, and it's like my door is black sometimes from mosquitoes.
That's funny. We're just totally spoiled in Colorado. I mean, we have some mosquitoes, but not anything like anything up in this region.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally take it for granted that you can be outside and not worry about. I mean, you get an occasional bite, but it's nothing like.
Oh yeah.
I remember as a kid,
Mhm.
and I'm sure it was on vacations or what have you, but you know, those trips where you just come back and your whole legs were just
Oh, yeah.
covered with them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I definitely had those, on vacations, going places with my sister. We would see who got more bug bites, who the bugs liked more. So we would do that. But then, it wasn't until I came here that I saw how intense it is being by a lake. Yeah, I was a little more inland in California, wine country. There's no lakes like that, so it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But here, I'm 2 blocks from it, and it's intense, that's for sure. But that's cool. I hope he likes it. It sounds like a really fun experience.
Me too. I hope that I think he seemed appropriately nervous going in. Like he had some appreciation and awareness that this was pushing him outside of his comfort zone, but not
That's great.
so nervous that he was kind of a mess.
Sure.
So,
That seems like a pretty good viewpoint. That's very cool. Is the older one kind of into the science and techie stuff too, or did he go a different route?
yeah, so he is more sort of pure science right now. He's doing a internship at University of Denver, one of their chemistry labs.
Oh, cool.
This summer, and he seems to be digging that. He's playing with some super expensive magnet. It's all. I mean, I took advanced chemistry in high school, but that was a long time ago now. So
Sure.
he comes home and wants to talk about super nerdy things that I cannot understand, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's fun to see them
Oh, yeah.
encounter things that they're genuinely interested in.
Right, and expanding that in a way that you don't have. You're not there in that science way for them. Is your husband into that stuff, or did they
Nope.
just get it out of nowhere? That's
No,
great.
we are both sort of. I mean, he's an attorney. We're
Okay.
both in sort of the social
Yeah.
world. Yeah, I mean, I think we both, in a parallel universe, could have gone the more sort of STEM. Where we both were like good at math and science in high school, and just gravitated to non-science and math things in college. And,
Sure.
But with a nudge in the other direction, probably could have followed a different path.
Sure, I can see that. Well, it sounds like there's some smarts in there either way. It just depends on where they get directed to. So that's good. Yeah.
Just want them to find something they're interested in and enjoy doing.
Right? But I learned an interesting thing that most people, specifically in America, change their careers right around their 30s anyways. Everything they went to college for, all the stuff they planned on, right around in their 30s, they go, you know what, I want to do something completely different.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it actually is beneficial. That helps fight Alzheimer's because it forces your brain to create new neurological pathways. It starts forcing a lot of that neuroplasticity to stay and keep going, and that it fights Alzheimer's, which is really interesting too. But yeah, a lot of people, they change what they do. They learn new things and force themselves to try. So who knows? That's what my daughter, again, she's 10. So when she's a kid, they ask the number one question, what do you want to be when she grows up? And she's a little nihilist. She gets that from me. It's unfortunate, but maybe it's great. But she's like, I didn't choose to be born. Like, why do I have to work? Like, why do I have to do this? Why do I need to do something when I grow up? I'm like, oh, ask your mom on that one. But it's an interesting point. But yeah. But so I told her that. I go, nobody knows. Nobody knows. I fell into IT purely accidentally.
Oh, really?
Purely. Okay. So I tell people I'm an actor playing the part of an IT guy. I was in Hollywood. Acting wasn't paying the bills, so I put a resume that was 100% a lie. And I submitted it to a company my friend worked at, and she got me the job on the referral. I had zero clue what I was doing.
Really?
Yeah, so what you call lying on a resume. Yeah, you call it lying on a resume. I call it workplace improv. Okay? And that's all I was doing. I was just improving and trying to figure it out, and that was it. It just Google like crazy to try and come up with answers. I mean, I did know tech. I built a computer before, but I'm a high school dropout. I don't even have a college degree. I just taught myself, and that was it.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
right? So it's just one of those. So I tell my kid, I'm like, I don't know what you'll be. I don't know what you'll do. You don't know what you're going to do. You're going to be a whole different person from where you are now to when you're 20, and then a completely different person when you're 30. And that's, I learned also, like, they used to think lobe development in the brain, the frontal lobe finishes at 25, but there's also some science showing that a lot of brain development doesn't finish until your mid-30s. So, like, people aren't even finished being cooked until they're 30 now. So
how could they possibly be expected to decide?
Yeah, you're not even a whole person
fixed
yet.
Version of, yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in you have to do it, you have to try, you have to fail to then figure out what you want to do and how you want to succeed. You have to try, you have to fail. And a 20-year-old's not going to do that. A college kid's not going to do that. A high school kid, they haven't even started. They haven't even tried yet. That's like a lot of people will go into the medical field. They'll spend 7 years going to, and then they get to being a doctor.
Like, I don't like this.
I hate this. Turns out, and that's, what do you do then? All that college, all that debt's still there. So it's like, So
You're stuck. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, it's just an interesting thing. Nobody knows what they're doing. Turns out.
It turns out. Yep.
Yeah.
Tell our kids often that, like, we're just making it up. We don't know what we're doing.
Right. Exactly.
Nobody pulled us aside and gave us all the answers. This is all us problem solving all the time.
And honestly, that's amazing that you're that open with your kids to tell them that. I think most, my parents just acted like they knew what they were doing and knew what they were talking about, because there was no way for me to fact check them. But then, like, once I come out, it's like, Mom, like, everything you told me is incorrect. Where is this coming from? Oh, man, yeah. So, that's great, because that's the viewpoint I have. My daughter, I tell her, she knows that I don't know anything. If she ever asks me a question, I always say, let's look it up. So now we do this thing, because my car has, it'll Bluetooth what I'm saying. So she asked me a question, and she goes, wait, never mind, let's just ask the car. And so I just push the talk button, and then I ask the car a question, and it'll answer, and she'll hear it through the car. So she thinks we're like talking to the car. But that's it. I was like, your daddy doesn't know anything. Let's ask the world. Like, we'll find it out. I'm not going to know. And that's great that you do that. I think that's more value to teach people to not have to have that certainty. You don't have to know. Oh yeah, what airline are you?
Southwest.
Southwest. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Sorry again.
Of course. No worries at all. Here we are. I hope you have a great flight.
Thank you. Beautiful. Drive safely.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the summer.
That's the plan. Thanks.